Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Steve Borys. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting. Unleash Your Power. We're so grateful to have you here today. We're talking about your latest book, How to Beat Stalin, Hitler, and the Southern State Parkway. I was like, wow, what a title. Quite interesting. I'm really grateful to have you chat on your book. What kind of brought you to writing your first book?
I was thinking about it for many years, but the COVID experience with the lockdown and everything, that kind of got me, motivated to finally hunker down and do it. Also having some free time. You couldn't coach, the schools had been closed, or the schedules were disrupted. And, I saw a couple things. I saw my family, my kids, I have two teenagers, they were both getting very depressed. I was getting depressed, and I saw folks who had, really loved and cared about each other, family and friends, struggling, but not just with COVID, but with social media. It was really becoming a cesspool, and folks who had really loved and cherished each other for many years were now at each other's throats for bizarre reasons, and for things I couldn't even dream of that we would ever fight about. And I just wanted to take a chance to remind us of what's important, how we can get through hard times together, and to realize, we're not as different as a lot of people make us out to be. And the universal force that brings us all together is love.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm so glad you wrote this book, Steve. Everything you're saying here is so, so important. We've gotten to a point where everything's become so polarized with, social media. And I'm like, how much of what you see on social media or the life you're portraying through social media is even real? And then you're fighting over all this silliness. I mean, it's like, get down to the juice of it. What do we all want? We want to be happy, have a healthy and happy life with our families, and be able to create the grandest life we possibly can while we're on this planet.
No, absolutely. It's about family. It's about taking, not just your own family, but your whole community.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote this book, was to try to remind us about our community, people we live side by side with. And I think, I could get into the history, which would put people to sleep, but over the last 50 years, we've kind of gotten away from that. It's kind of become, greed is good society, Lord of the Flies type mentality. And we kind of got away from the unifying factors and our common history together, and the idea of the great thing about this country, as Lincoln said, we're trying to create a more perfect union.
Yeah.
And always trying to bring more people, more rights, and try to take care of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that you say that, build a more perfect union, because we're not perfect. It's going to be an ongoing journey. It's not like, oh, we've just made it, we've made it now. No, we have to always go back and say, what can we make better? Maybe some things don't work, but as long as we're fighting and just, at each other's throats, there's no way we can begin to even fix things. What, from your perspective, have you seen has been the greatest thing we've kind of let go of? Has it been family, or has it been, just our shared values as a country? What has it been from your perspective?
It's about, I think history. I think that's one of the things right there. That's what I teach. I've been teaching history for 25 years. And it can be inspiring. And that's kind of what got me to where I am right now, was my family's history. And the book, when I started off as a teenager, sitting with my mom at the kitchen table, and I was very depressed. I was basically at the abyss. I couldn't find a reason to get out of bed in the morning, if you understand what I'm saying. And I lost my father. I never got over that. I was learning disabled. I was flunking out of school. I was a fat kid. I was being bullied mercilessly. I didn't see how my life could be anything but pain. And my mom was a great mother, you know, like any mom, she was crazy. Oh, you're going to be beautiful and everything's great. You're smart, but you don't believe your mom, right? And my mom decided to change tactics, and she said, okay, you know, you're not the only person who's ever had trouble. And she goes, I think it's a time I told you about your babcia, your Ukrainian grandmother.
Hmm.
She was my father's mother. And I go, okay, what was so special about babcia? I never really knew her. She died when I was 5 in the same car crash as my dad on the Southern State Parkway, in case you're wondering where that part of the book comes
Oh,
from. And I said, well, what was so special about her? I only really knew my babcia as the nice lady who brought over apple strudel from time to time. You know, as the fat kid, that's how you identify people, by what pastry they bring to the house. You know, if you bring over a salad, we tell you to get the hell out, you know, but
my grandma too. She was
yeah,
yeah.
they're the best. And I said, well, what'd she do? You know, my mom said, well, she was basically a superhero.
Hmm.
A superhero, you know, she had magical apple strudel. She goes, no, well, when she was your age, you know, you know, 12, 13 years old, she wasn't worried about obesity. She was worried about starving to death, because she was growing up in Ukraine in the 20s and 30s, and and her family were victims of Stalin's Holodomor, sometimes called the Great Terror, or the Ukrainian genocide, where Stalin, wanting to break the will of the Ukrainian people, who were very proud people, he took away all the food. He wanted to force them onto their communist collective farms, and he starved them into submission. And these people had to do unspeakable things. First, you know, the soldiers would come to the house. They took away all the farm animals. They took away all the stores. They even ripped up the floorboards looking for scraps. They took the garbage. You could only get food from the collective store, and there was never any food there. And it was your food. People ate the cats and the dogs first, then the bugs and the mice, excrement, and then it got down, in some cases, cannibalism. And it was just unspeakable what these people had to go through. And when that was over, and they were finally, you know, starting to get their lives back together, Hitler was now master of Germany. And in 1941, he unleashes Operation Barbarossa, which is the largest land battle in the history of the world. And there's my babcia on the front lines of this. And as a teenage girl now, late teens, and she's quickly captured. Her family's killed, and she's taken as a slave for the Third Reich, where she spends the rest of the war. And in the camp, she was about to lose all hope. You know, her family got her through the Holodomor, but they're all dead now. And in the nick of the moment, as she's about to give up, the babushkas come, all the old women of the camp. They see her, they take pity on this poor girl, and they rush over and they put a babushka on her, you know, headscarf.
Yeah.
And they make her hunch down to hide her beauty, and they actually smear horse manure on her to ward off the German guards from having any bad ideas, if you know what I mean. And they got through it together. And she met her husband, Eustace, in the camp. And she had my father. My father was born into slavery. And I'm hearing this, and I can't believe my ears. You know, I never knew this about my babcia. You know, I thought, you know, who has a grandma who went through this, right? You know, and sure enough, one day Hitler commits suicide and she's free. And babcia outlasted Stalin and Hitler.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
I said to my mom, how the hell did you do this? And she goes, babcia's superpower was that she focused in on what she could control. She can control what they were doing to her body, but she could always control her reaction to it. And her reaction to unspeakable evil was love. She vowed in that camp that one day she was going to resurrect the Borys family. That one day she would have children, grandchildren, that the Borys family would be prosperous again. She would not let these people erase us from history. That was going to be her response. And I was absolutely floored by this. right?
Yeah.
How could I be related to such an immensely powerful woman, right?
Yeah. And it makes all problems, modern problems, like what?
Yeah. And, we didn't have to, we got COVID was bad, but we weren't dealing with roving bands of cannibals,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of puts it in oh, you had to put the mask on. She's eating a dog.
Mm-hmm.
She's a slave. People talk about fashion, and I want you to understand two things. She got hit by the extreme left, communists,
Mm-hmm.
and the extreme right,
Mm-hmm.
Nazi fascism. Anytime you go extreme either way, is a history lesson, ends in death, slavery, and genocide. So anytime you be cautious about people talking extreme. Hey, if only we got rid of this group of people, everything would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're either on the left.
Well, yeah, and
or
anytime
on
you
the
get
right.
to a point where you have a government who is becoming tyrannical, and one of the first things
You
Hitler,
got to be very careful.
yeah,
You got to be very
yeah,
careful. You got to listen to Bob Shaiva here.
yeah,
Because and realize, hey, what can we find commonality?
mm-hmm.
And let's focus on that. She focused in on love. She had every excuse to become bitter and spiteful, and she wanted to take care of her family. She wanted to create a family, and she was getting back on her feet. She had a second child. Her husband was making bathtub wine to sell to soldiers, and he was murdered one night.
Mm.
And with no hope, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church got her on a boat, brought her to Philly. And the first night in Philadelphia, her and her kids were homeless, penniless, couldn't speak the language, slept on a park bench. But Babsha always said that this was a good start. And I said, my God, what are you talking about? How could that be a good start? She had nothing, but she had a chance. A chance is all you need.
Yeah.
So this woman worked her fingers to the bone. She had to put her sons in an orphanage. And eventually, got out, moved up to the Bronx, moved to Yonkers. And when she died, she had her own business. She had her own house, met 4 grandkids. And that's how she beat Stalin and Hitler. That's
awesome. And, that is such a testament to so many of the past immigrants that came here. A friend of mine who came from Belarus had a similar story where she came with her 2 kids, no husband, and worked 3 jobs. And this is more recent than your grandma, but she came here and made it work. And she was actually an engineer back in communist Russia. But yeah, that's why people come here, and that they want to make a better life. And if, even when she came here as poor as she did, just like your grandma, there's still a chance to make a better life. And that was the hope that, no matter what, we can push forward, work hard, and make a life that we want and desire here.
And, and the purpose of that story, so I hear that, and I was on the edge, right? I said, my God, I'm on the hook here. If I give up or kill myself or crawl into a bottle or become, crack or whatever, I'm not only letting myself down, I'm letting down Babcha. That's Stalin and Hitler win. So how many of us have an immigrant story where some relative did everything they could to get us here, overcame whatever evil? And that's what the title of the book is. It's about overcoming adversity, and it could be historical, like Babcha beating 2 dictators. It could be me overcoming the death of my father. It could be beating alcoholism. It could be overcoming a divorce, right? You name it, and that's why I wanted this story out there to help inspire people. Because I had real problems, and that's the thing. Your problems are real, whatever the heck it is.
I like that you say that. That's important. I remember a mentor was working with us. This is a business mentor, and some people, came in with real family or life issues, and he said, "No, I don't want you to deny them, but I don't want to sit on them. Let's acknowledge the existence of the problem, and then let's work to move forward, not stay stuck in them." And I like that you're mentioning that. Problems are problems. Whatever you have going on in your life, it's real. It's not real.
And sometimes smaller ones can sneak up on you, right? Like maybe drinking too much. Oh, I can control it. The next thing you know, you're dead all the same. It doesn't matter if it's an evil dictator or a bottle of gin. If you got to be careful, and I was terrified when I heard this story because, oh my God, I have to live up to this woman's expectations, but I looked at myself, how could I be anything but a total loser? There was no shimmer of, and that's when my mother said, Steve, this is when you got to play some football, and you guys in Texas, so you guys relate to this. And okay, football, let's go. I was a big kid. I wasn't in shape though, right? And never exercised before. And so I got for the football team. And my mom made me want to play football because she knew who the men were. And she knew, well, yes, they of course wanted to win games. Who doesn't, right? But they were trying to build great men through the sport of football. So we sometimes as a coach, we call it head fake learning. You get the kids excited. It's a fun thing and it's competitive, but you're really teaching them how to be a man. For female sport, teach them how to be a woman, or a successful adult. And right away, you could start seeing the change happen. The first day, we had to run the lap around the school to warm up. And I got about halfway and I start dry heaving and I can't make it. And the captain comes over, just get Jason, and grabs me and says, hey, we're going to get through this together. Drags me across the line and says, you did it. You're part of the team. And our slogan was Brothers Forever. As many football teams have something similar to that, but it's not just something cool you put on a t-shirt. It's something real. And that team helped get me through some very hard times. It was a community, it was a family. And my mom also got me help in the classroom. She got me an IEP and I came with a special ed teacher, Mrs. Dudick. And this woman, she was great. She was about 5 foot tall. She used to have to jump up on a chair to yell in my face. I'm about 6'3". And, this woman taught me how to learn. And I want you to think about that. That's what educators do as a teacher. Sometimes we get crazy stories about what we're doing in the classroom. We're taking care of kids and we're teaching them how to be successful. Period. Okay. And, I haven't met a teacher, some are better than others, but that's the goal. Well, and this woman changed my life around. She told me, hey, I'd get upset if I had homework tests. Oh, it's terrible. The teachers are crazy. I said, no, it's not punishment. It's a ladder to success. You want to be great, you do the work. This will make you great. It's about changing your mindset. Once you change your mindset, everything else falls into place. And that was the gift she gave me. And I look at, oh my goodness. And the grades went up. And my athleticism went up. I found the great coaches. They trained me and I wasn't bad anymore. And my mom, and this is an important thing, you got to start making plans. You got to start setting goals. And my mom said, okay, we're going to sit down. She sat me down at the table one night. She said, okay, this is what you're going to do. And I'm like 9th, 10th grade now. She goes, you're going to grow. You're going to become a successful football star. You're going to get a scholarship to college, to a great academic school. You're going to meet a beautiful girl. You're going to marry with kids. You're going to live happily ever after. Right? And even though I was getting better, it was still preposterous. So what the frig are you talking about? How is this, any of this possible? She goes, what else do you got to do? And we went for it. And as we're getting older, I'm like 16, junior year. It's April, and the principal knocks on my classroom door. Steve, I need to see you. And I wasn't in trouble. I knew I wasn't like one of those kids smoking in the bathroom. Today you'd vape. But, I said, oh. And I was excited because Mr. Budeman, around this time when college scouts would come, he'd pull the kid out of class and you get recruited, right? And this meant your scholarship's on the way. And I went skipping down the hall. We went to his office and I thought, man, this is going to be great. Boy, mom's going to be so proud. And I walk in and there's no scout, just the two of us. I said, what's going on? Steve, there was a terrible accident. Your mom's dead. And back right again, I was back at the abyss.
Wow.
And that's what this book is about. That's what the next part. What do you do now?
Yeah. I could tell that there are just so many huge nuggets for our audience to learn from of your book. And I don't want them to miss on how they can get their very own copy. How can they do that? Do you have a website or specific place where they can...
you can just go right. The simplest way is to go right on to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and Google my name, or Google, type in, how to beat Stalin, Hitler, in the Southern State Parkway. And within about 48 hours, you can start reading it, or instantly on Kindle.
Kindle, yeah,
Make a
boom.
commercial now. Oh my goodness.
Did you do an audio version or just a...
I'm actually want to think about doing that. I want to get that out there because I have a lot of friends that just don't read. But I've been doing
Either
a lot
my
of shows
husband.
like this. Yeah, I'm like, and I tell them, I go, you don't have to read it, just buy it.
Just...
Give me a commission. No, but and that's why I'm doing shows like this, to try to reach people. I've been doing public speaking events, to reach as many people as possible. Because that's my goal, is to share this story and try to get people back from the abyss, get them back in the fight, and do it. But that's the thing. We have this myth in this country of the self-made man. I did it all by myself. It's baloney.
No, I've been saying that for years. Never.
At your back.
Yeah. And no one made it to the top by themselves. No one.
And for me, it was my mother, and she had my back.
That's awesome.
And that's another reason, and I wanted to share this. People who read the book, that they're in love with my mother.
Yeah, I bet.
She was Italian American, but every race and ethnic group has claimed her.
Yeah.
My Dominican buddies, like, is your mother Dominican? Jewish friend, is she Jewish? Is she this?
Yeah.
And I think that's very important to understand, because moms transcend.
That's right. Well, Steve, Borys, I just have to thank you. I mean, there's so many nuggets here, but they can get even more. I suggest they do get a copy of How to Beat Stalin, Hitler, and the Southern State Parkway, so they can really get through anything they might be going through either now or in the future, or give it to a good friend who might be going through a down slot right now. I thank you again, Steve, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz Tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.